Now we are live. Dr. Vidhu, we are
Yes,
live
sir.
at the moment.
Okay, sir. Shall we start? Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session of today's national webinar, jointly organized by St. John's College, Agra, and Sam Higginbottom University of Agriculture, Technology and Sciences, Prayagraj. Today, we are presenting the webinar on upcoming economic and marketing challenges post-COVID-19 lockdown. Just a little housekeeping before we start. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom platform or on YouTube channel. We'll take them up at the end of the presentation if time permits. Keep your mic muted and camera on off mode to have seamless webinar. Before we start, I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to our principal, Professor S.P. Singh, as Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor A.K.A. Lawrence of Sam Higginbottom University of Agriculture, Technology and Sciences, Prayagraj, without whose support this webinar was not possible. I would extend a warm welcome to our VC, Professor Ashok Mittal, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar University in absentia, who gave his consent for being the chief patron of our webinar. I would now invite our principal, Professor S.P. Singh, to lead us in prayer and then give a brief introduction about the webinar and declare this today's national webinar open. Sir. Principal, sir.
Probably there is some loop has formed from someone's live streaming on YouTube is constantly being fed into the Zoom meeting. So if you have both Zoom meeting and YouTube streaming simultaneously on, please.
Live on custom live अमित भाई नहीं है पहले Zoom मीटिंग में चला बस yes custom live streaming
Let us pray. God leads us from falsehood to truth, from darkness to light, from death to eternity. We pray you to bless the webinar, nourish our minds, nurture compassionate hearts within us, so that our deliberations will prepare us for the future which you have set in store for us. Amen. It is indeed a great pleasure and an opportunity to welcome all the distinguished resource persons and participants for this webinar. Last 2-3 months, as we have heard being expressed at various forums, and we must have expressed in our own conversations, have been quite unprecedented in the recent history. For last few centuries, we can't think of an occasion when the world came to a grinding halt, or the major economic centers of the world suddenly registered a cessation in activity. It has led to a great deal of paranoia, great deal of questioning and anxiety amidst us. The very fact that we have gathered in this manner is indicative of the significant changes that are shaping the new structures of life. We do hear a lot of thinkers constantly talking to us and telling us that post-COVID world is going to be quite different from a pre-COVID one. This whole trauma is not going to be once upon a time isolated phenomena, but it is going to trigger certain changes, which will have lasting impact on the way human behavior and human activities are conducted. I come from the city of Agra, where tourism contributes to a significant portion of city's economic activity, which has suddenly come to a standstill. There are anxieties whether the sectoral performances are going to get widespread and have a cascading effect and impact the overall economy. How would the communication, the physical movement, cessation of physical movement, would it create new modes of communication, new modes of marketing, new modes in which we'll approach the world in a new way? We have brilliant participants who would be churning on this subject. And in this churning, we would be led by a very distinguished team of experts. Today we have Professor P.K. Ghosh, Dr. P.N. Asthana, and Dr. Ashish Samarpit Noel, who would be talking about different facets, and we'll have an opportunity for interaction. So, with a great sense of anticipation, with a great delight and pleasure, I declare this webinar open. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for blessing us. Now we shall be starting with the most awaited part of the webinar and listen to our eminent speaker of the day, Professor P.K. Ghosh. Professor P.K. Ghosh is currently the head Department of Economics, University of Allahabad. He is a passionate teacher and researcher, having long experience of more than 35 years in the field of economics, with specialization in economic policy and environmental economics. He has also served as Naval NCC officer for 25 years till his superannuation from the rank of Lieutenant Commander. His well-acclaimed patriotic lectures on Indian Armed Forces have motivated a large number of students and young faculty members across the nation. I welcome you, sir. And sir, Professor P.K. Ghosh. Sir, it's over to you now.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to take a part in your webinar. And thanks for your welcome. Now, as the topic goes, the term is post-COVID. Now, I think the term post-COVID is still very optimistic, because I see the year 2020 as the year of COVID-19. Maybe that can expand to 21, 22, or I don't know for how long, and how and when this post-COVID actually happens. That is long-awaited phenomena. Then we're still in the duration of COVID-19. Now this COVID-19, that we say coronavirus disease 19, has expanded our vocabulary. It has added new words and new meanings to our dictionary and everyday use. Earlier, we are not aware or not heard about the term lockdown, quarantine, these red zone, orange zone, green zone, etc. But now these terms are very common for common people also. Now, this COVID-19 has actually created a state of fear and helplessness across the world. In all types of countries, whether it is low income, middle income, or high income countries. And moreover, it is not confined to any particular area of the globe, but has covered all the continents. That is the spread effect of this COVID. Now, as far as the recent data is concerned, as far as 18th May 2020, World Health Organization released the latest data of COVID, which says that globally there have been more than 46 lakh confirmed cases of COVID-19, and which includes more than 3 lakh deaths. Out of these 46 lakh confirmed cases, the maximum cases are in Americas, which comprise of more than 20 lakhs. Then Europe, more than 18 lakhs. Eastern Mediterranean, more than 3.5 lakhs. Western Pacific, 1.6 lakhs. Southeast Asia, 1.4 lakhs. Africa, 0.6 lakh, and so on. These are the highest number of cases in different parts of the world. And as far as the highest confirmed cases in the country is concerned, it is still in the richest nation of the world, that is United States, where there are more than 14 lakh cases. And then next is Russian Federation, then United Kingdom, Brazil, Spain, Italy, Germany, and top countries. Now there are so many countries where there are more than 1 lakh cases, and in those countries, India has joined yesterday. Now India has 1,392 cases of COVID, and India's tally of COVID has not only crossed 1 lakh mark on 18th May, but also more than 3,000 deaths. And the most serious part for India is that in the last week, between May 11 and May 17, India has recorded 4,077 COVID cases on an average, which is 4th highest among all countries of the world. During the week concerned, there were 15 countries in the world which had more than 1,000 cases in a day, and India is 4th among those countries. And out of those 15 countries, the doubling time of cases, as far as the fastest, middle time, and slowest time is concerned, we can club them under 3 categories. That is red countries, that is fastest time, which comprise of 8 countries. Orange countries, that is middle time, that is 2 countries. And green, the slowest time, that is 5 countries. And the most serious part for India is that India is among the list of fastest or red countries in the case doubled in last week every 13.5 days, whereas now only 3 countries, Bangladesh, Chile, and Brazil, are lesser duration in doubling time, whereas the US, which is suffering the highest number of cases, has now exceeded to 41.3 days, UK 47.2 days, Iran 42.9 days, Turkey 61.7 days, but India is in that comparison has doubling time of 30.5 days, which is a serious challenge for India. Now, but the silver lining is that India's COVID cases climbed 100 to 1 lakh in 64 days, which is more than twice the number of days as compared to US, Spain, Germany, etc., where it is respectively 25 days, 30 days, and 35. But for India, it is 64 days. That is a little consolation for us. Italy, France, and UK are all far behind India when it comes to controlling the coronavirus is concerned. And India's fatality rate means the number of COVID-19 deaths divided by number of COVID-19 confirmed cases. It is still very low, that is 3.1%, whereas it is high as 13.4% for a country like advanced country like Belgium. And now there is a mixed structure for cases for India. Now, as in the inaugural speech, it was mentioned that the world has completely changed. Earlier, the socio-economic debate used to focus on pre-globalization and post-globalization era. Mainly economic issues were referred to as pre and post-globalization and the comparison. But in future, it will center around pre-COVID and post-COVID era, which is dramatic change. And moreover, in the pre-globalization and post-globalization, it was mainly confined to economic changes. We never discussed about the health effect or deaths in those two terms. Now it has become the center focus of COVID-19. Now, although we are using the term post-COVID very optimistically, as I told, but this post-COVID has to, we have to wait for this post-COVID era. I don't know when the post-COVID is going to happen. Now, when we talk about globalization and pre-globalization or COVID or post-COVID, I just repeat that this COVID-19 has completely changed the global landscape in every dimension. This generation has gone through the period of global prosperity, and now it is going through the time of global suffering and pain. It is really an extraordinary time and extraordinary situation, and especially for India, as the earlier financial crisis that is generated from United States in 2008, India was not a culprit of that, but India had to pay a price. And now again in the COVID-19, India is also not a culprit, but India is paying a big price for that. And that is why day for yesterday, India, along with 62 other countries, have supported a draft prepared by the Australia and European Union, EU, to investigate that the causes of origination of COVID. And naturally, it will focus on some countries or some reasons especially. Now, 2019 onwards, the global crisis is not confined only to financial and economic, but also to the dimension of health and survival. This is the biggest pandemic in our memory that has swept the world, and its dark footprints are continuously expanding, killing people of all ages, from small children to aged ones, from poor people to rich people. Now, earlier, when we talk about the finance and economy, especially the government's budget, especially in India, the earlier budgets had the financial rope, which is a tight rope with a tussle between two bees. That is two bees, that is bread and bomb. Bread means economic activities, growth, income, and livelihood. And bomb means defense and security, the armed forces. But now these two bees will be changed completely. And now it will have a tactful balancing of three bees. That is bread, bomb, and breath. Breath means survival and life. And now this is the biggest challenge for India to survive. Now, if you look at India's role, India's challenges, now since 2016 onward till 2030, the United States had announced the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, that is 17 goals to be achieved by 2030. And goal 1 and goal 2 are confined to zero poverty and zero hunger. And it is very big challenge for India. And the role of India is very big in achieving these two goals. India has, unfortunately, highest number of multi-dimensional poor. And second highest number of extremely poor. That is the people below $1.90 a day. That is, we are after Nigeria, we are second highest. And still we are highest number of hungry people in the world. Naturally, India's failure in goal 1 and goal 2 will certainly fail the UN goals also. That is the goal of zero hunger and zero poverty. Now, India has a major responsibility with second largest population in the world. And now this COVID-19 has created new challenges. Now, when we talk about the goal of survival, now it is a challenge of death. And there are two dimensions of death that I see. That is death due to virus or death due to hunger. It is a death if we are continuing the prolonged lockdown. It is moving livelihood loss, income loss, unemployment, and hunger and death. And the second dimension is virus, which we and the world is still has still failed to tackle and to create any vaccine to meet the challenge. Now for India, I'll look at the issue as I discussed earlier. That is number of cases crossing 1 lakh, a number of deaths, 1,000. And for India, it is more focused, and which I can use a term, which I coined a term, CMAD, CMAD. We can discuss, you can use the C for Corona and MAD for the mad world, financially, economically, and emotionally, everything. But this CMAD, actually I have coined C for Chennai, M for Mumbai, A for Ahmedabad, and D for Delhi. These four major places of India comprises about 55% of the total proven COVID cases. And mind it that Mumbai, out of the CMAD, Mumbai is the financial capital, Delhi is the political capital, and Chennai and Ahmedabad are known for their throbbing economic activities from textile to auto. And these four places of four states comprise about 75% of all COVID cases. That is Maharashtra, topping with the approximately 39% of total COVID cases, followed by Tamil Nadu, 13.7%, Gujarat, 11.0%, and Delhi, 10.4%, making approximately 3/4 of all COVID cases in India. And the one more serious dimension, the recent dimension is that recently there are sudden increasing number of cases in Northeast and Odisha, which are so far behind the number of cases of COVID. And only on this Sunday on 17th May, more than 5,000 cases recorded in a single day, which is creating a bigger challenge for India. That is life versus livelihood dilemma has gripped over the entire nation in a big way. Now, this is the scenario of the COVID and its dimension, but how it is going to affect India. I am not going to detail the aspects of covering different dimensions of economy from agriculture to industry. I will just, in a short time, I will just touch a few dimensions. The COVID-19 is actually going to hit two ambitious targets of India very badly. The first ambitious dream of India of becoming a $5 trillion economy by 2024-25 will naturally have an early death. We will not have that time-bound objective of making India $5 trillion. Why this is that I may discuss later on. Because to reach $5 trillion economy, we need sustained growth of 9% or more continuously to achieve that growth rate, starting from the base of $2.5 or $2.7 trillion of Indian economy, and which now seems to be very high dream or impossible to be very realistic sense. The first casualty is of the ambitious dream of $5 trillion. Now, second casualty, which affects the largest population of India's working population, that is the farmers. The casualty is the target of doubling the farmers' income by 2022. Now, we are not going to achieve this target also. Now, these are two dreams of making India a stronger, economically vibrant, remarkable country. And both the dreams have been shattered by this COVID-19. And in addition to it, Now, recently, the government has announced a very huge stimulus package of 20 lakh crore, which is approximately 10% of our GDP. So far as if you look at as the GDP of India in 2019-20. But this stimulus package is 10%, which will naturally create the fiscal challenges for India. And I have no doubt that the revised fiscal responsibility and budget management roadmap, revised roadmap given by NK Singh committee as revised earlier roadmap. Now this roadmap will have a bumpy fiscal road full of potholes because of this huge stimulus. And this how this stimulus package will affect the people in general, that is a big question that we could discuss later on. Now, bringing down fiscal deficit and revenue deficit, which are the two most important challenges of fiscal health for the India, it is also going to be have a sudden backseat. Now, fiscal health is also to be hit very hard because of, on the one hand, we'll have a lower GDP coupled with lower revenue for the government, and on the other hand, increasing expenditure and increasing stimulus package. Now, I hope that this the target of 3.5% fiscal deficit, which was set in the budget for 2021, is also going to slip in a big way. And I fear that we may again reach to the same level of 6% or high fiscal deficit that we faced in early 1990s of a financial crisis. Now, when we talk about this 200 more than 20 lakh crore of India GDP, which is projected in the budget at 10% growth rate for 2021. Now, this 2021, from many quarters or many analysts have says it is not 10% growth rate, but it can slip even to zero or even to negative growth rate. And when we are projecting that 3.5% deficit with a high tax revenue, and in that tax revenue, the highest share together contribute about 35% of total tax revenue, and additional GST and excise duty that comprise of 18%. If you add these go together, it goes to more than 50% of total tax revenue. And because of COVID-19, because of the slowdown, global slowdown, and economic slowdown of India especially, now we are going to slip these targets. And as the sharp decline in tax revenue will naturally increase the revenue deficit in a big way, and that will ultimately push the fiscal deficit on a higher way. And you know that high fiscal deficit has its own multi-dimensional adverse effects, including a further dent on economic growth, increase in unemployment, increase in inflation, increase in foreign exchange crisis, and multidimensional. It is a very serious challenge for India. Now, for a first ambitious target, as I expressed, that is a target of $5 trillion, which requires a sustained high growth trajectory of 9% or more per annum. I remember that during 11th Five-Year Plan, the Planning Commission had given a slogan, 9 is mine. The 9 is mine, the term 9, the alphabet 9 means 9% growth rate is our ambitious. And again, you break down the 9 in two parts. Out of 9%, it was comprising two parts, 6% of GDP for education and 3% of GDP for health. But I'm very sorry to say that this COVID-19 has revealed the serious fallacy of our health system. And still our health expenditure as percent of GDP is not even half of 3%, that's not even 1.5%. Then to tackle the COVID-19 and its health effect is naturally a serious challenge. We are lacking the health infrastructure, health services, health personnel in a big way. Now, this 9 is mine, or 9% or high growth rate because of due to COVID-19 is going to not going to happen. But even we may face India's GDP growth rate was lowered to around 4% even before outbreak of COVID-19. And recent report predict that the impact of COVID-19 might reduce GDP growth rate to 0 or even negative in the current fiscal. Now, it means for 2020 and for a medium-term time period, India will face a serious economic slowdown. And along with the high level of unemployment, a prolonged lockdown has further increased this misery, and it may possibly push millions of Indians into the situation of further darkness and suffering in 2020 and beyond. Now, this India has gone through since independence different phases of economic growth, and we naturally we call about the first 3 decades of Hindu growth rate. That was a slow growth rate of 3.5% GDP per annum. Then after liberation, we jumped to new Hindu growth rate, that is double of Hindu growth rate of 3.5%. That is double means 7%. But we are looking forward for a triple of the Hindu growth rate or double-digit Hindu growth rate. That was our ambition. That was our trajectory toward the 5 trillion economy. But sudden, the turn has become an inverted U trajectory of economic growth, and that growth rate trajectory has shattered all our ambitions. Now, dealing with COVID-19 pandemic has brought out the critical importance of public sector in health provisioning in respect of both health infrastructure and health personnel. If you look at India's health infrastructure and you compare it with a private health sector and public health sector, the data says that the hospitals in India, total hospitals, 93% hospitals are in private sector and nearly 7% hospitals are in public sector. Similarly, hospital beds, 64% of the hospital beds are in private sector and merely 36% are public sector. And as far as doctors are concerned, 80 to 85% doctors are in private sector and merely 15-20% are in health sector, in public sector. It is now a big thrust has to be given on public health services in the Corona 2019, in year 2020 and beyond. We had a very ambitious program, Ayushman Bharat, which is basically health insurance program. But what we need as a top priority now is health stimulus in a big way, not only health insurance. Unless we have the health stimulus, unless we have from primary to super specialty level health infrastructure in a big way, be able to face these shocks very effectively. Now, the question is life versus livelihood. We need a longer and healthy life, which is a critical component of economy and overall socio-economic development. But now the life and livelihood both are under big threat. Now, if you look at the scenario, now this is for India. Now we look at scenario, I just talk about 2 recent reports, one by the World Bank and one by the International Labour Organization, ILO. Now, World Bank says that this COVID will affect the world as well as India in a big way. And I can mention the 4 special issues. That is a decrease in labor supply. Now, we have seen in India the reverse migration of labor from urban to rural areas. It has never happened in the history. It was always rural to urban migration, but now we are looking at the reverse migration. That is for the first time. And it is not only reverse migration. This COVID-19 has left permanent scar on body, mind, and soul of laborers. I don't know how and when they will be enough courageous to again go back to the cities and metros with so much bad experience, which they have never dreamt in their lives. Second point is, first point was the decrease in labor supply, which will naturally affect the production, growth, income, livelihood opportunities, everything. Second is the cost of trade will also increase because the cost production will go up. Shortage of labor. This is second thing. And that's why we want to give a big stimulus to our production capacity, to our trade capabilities. And now the structure of trade and production will also change in the effect of COVID. Now, what priority of India is not to produce for the export, but first priority is to produce for our own domestic consumption, domestic people. That is the bigger challenge for India. Third point is the rapid fall in consumer expenditure. The data of World Bank predicts that approximately 60% of the expenditure will be confined to only grocery and daily use consumer items of the household. This is a sharp decline in consumer expenditure, and the decline in consumer expenditure naturally will affect the overall investment sentiment, overall production, overall growth, and overall prosperity of the economy. And the fourth dimension, as principal was mentioning, that is the fourth dimension of tourism, which is going to have effect more in most worst way. Both domestic and international tourism will come down by 60% to 80%, and that creates livelihood to many large number of people who are directly or indirectly related with the tourism sector, whether it is hotels, transportation, or small vendors, roadside vendors, tourist guides, etc. And that is tourism income will also come down sharply. But now these four challenges are going to hit India very badly. And now, as far as the report of ILO is concerned, that COVID will hit approximately 330 crore laborers across the world, out of which 200 crores laborers are in unorganized sector, which are the most affected of this COVID-19. And out of these 200, 160 crore have already lost their work in recent past as the effect of COVID. Now, IMF also predicts that for 130 crore labor, their question is of survival and subsistence and increasing hunger for them. This COVID-19, as far as ILO report is concerned, is going to affect in a big way various sectors of the economy, from manufacturing, food services, hotel, real estate, wholesale retail trade, and also decline in hour of work by more than 10%. It is going to badly affect the self-employed and startups. Before March 2020 also, India had seen outflow of foreign investment from various sectors. And there was negative flow in financial services, auto sector, fast-moving consumer goods sector, IT sector, energy and bank sector, and share market and mutual fund was also affected very badly. And now due to this COVID, these sectors are also going to be affected more hardly. And we have seen the index of industrial production is declining very sharply. And it is for the first time in recent past, in the month of April, there was no sale of motor cars of big motor companies. That is historical event. In April, even Maruti, Tata, and other were not able to sell single car, and the auto sector provides large employment and income opportunities to a number of persons. And that contributes approximately 8% to GDP and contributes about 11% in tax collection. Same thing has happened to other sectors also, where large number of workers are employed. If you look at the recent data of impact of COVID in different sectors, cement sector has declined by more than 25%, natural gas more than 15%, steel more than 13%, fertilizer 11%, electricity 7.2%, crude oil 5.2%, refinery, etc. And also travel and accommodation. These all are hit very badly. Now, the question is, what is the path? How to change this thing? Now, we need relief. We need more packages, not merely stimulus. The first priority now is of migrant laborers. The first priority is now of rural economy and agriculture. The first priority is agro-based industry and farmers, because now we are not going to see the migration of laborers from rural to urban areas. Then we have to think about the livelihood of these. The second priority for me is parallel to this priority is much focus on the health sector, because this now the COVID-19 has exposed very badly our health infrastructure from primary to higher sector. And as we know that we are on the very thin ice, and we could even say that thinnest ice as far as health sector and impact is concerned. It is, I have no doubt that we have to live with virus in the year 2020 and beyond also. And we'll have multidimensional socioeconomic changes. And the most important changes is that everybody has to go through a very serious and severe and effective behavioral change. Unless we have behavioral change, only lockdown and these steps will not going to help us and not going to revive the economy, socioeconomic structure. These are basically the 20 lakh crore package is basically focusing on structural reforms, covering almost all the sectors of the economy. And our finance minister has given a detailed structure of these changes. In addition to it, we always say that it is a bigger opportunity for India to shift the industries, especially from China to India. But I think that we have the threats and competition from Bangladesh, Taiwan, Vietnam, Cambodia also. So we are not on a very safe ground to attract the global investment. And it is labor law reforms, legal reforms that are still facing red tapeism. Although in the past couple of days, we have diluted many such obstacles, but much bigger steps are required. We require to pump big amount of money to promote liquidity, to promote public expenditure in a big way. This COVID-19 has given a big lesson, and we have to think about the street vendors. We have to think about the middle classes, and we have to think about the sequencing also. For me, sequencing, in addition to the health sector, which is a priority, is the first sequencing is the agriculture. We have to promote the supply chain. Then along with agriculture, there's transport, and the third is hotels. We have to promote the low capital and high labor intensive industries. We must move towards one rate structure of GST. It has to be liberalized further. We have to attract the global investment. We have to attract the domestic investment, which is actually a big challenge because the global slowdown and domestic slowdown also. Reform to attract investment has to play a major role in global supply chain. We have to reduce global dependency, and we have to promote local dependency. That is the meaning of Atmanirbharta also. Only then we can face this challenge of global slowdown and India's slowdown. Now, there are some issues which we must discuss parallel. That is, 15th Finance Commission is yet to give its recommendation for next 5 years. And it has also recommended for this current year, that is 41% of central taxes to be distributed among the states. And for 15th Finance Commission, the subject of central states, and that has to be worked out in light of this COVID-19 in a more cautious way. Now we have Disaster Management Act also implemented. Banks are facing the pending loans. Our customers are not coming forward to take the loans. We have seen recent past increasing reverse repo deposits. These are the some critical situations for India. Now, what is the answer for these things? As we are moving, going through COVID 4.0 lockdown, one big answer is the Industrial Revolution 4.0 also, which is going to be the future of the Indian economy. It concludes 9 technology trends, from building blocks of autonomous robotics, simulations and vertical system integration, industrial Internet of Things, cyber security, the cloud, the additional manufacturing, augmented reality, big data analytics, etc. Now, as we know that the government of India, especially Niti Aayog, has recently launched 7,500 crore scheme of Airavat, that is artificial intelligence, and that is the future of the agriculture along with the health segment in a big way. Only then we can think about the after effects of COVID-19 to be actively tackled. Now, recently, day before yesterday, India, among 62 nations, have backed a draft resolution led by Australia and European Union to identify the zoonotic source of COVID-19 and its route of introduction to humans. Now, this will increase India's position at the global political system also. And we have not mentioned the country named China, but it's still China focused. Now, this is all, but I conclude in this way that still it is very early to say post-COVID term, early to use the post-COVID term, which are still under the COVID-19. And to me, the COVID-19 is not a short-term phenomena. It is going to be medium-term or even long-term phenomena for us all also. Therefore, we have to think about how to live with Corona, which is not Corona minus world. Still, if there are vaccines invented very soon, it will also take a long time for a herd immunization, like we have done for polio vaccination, which took a long time for herd immunization. That herd immunization for COVID will also take a long time. I wish that the world is able to invent any medicine or any package of medicines. So many packages are there, or any vaccine for COVID very, very soon. And the COVID also goes like SARS and MERS or earlier viruses. That is my wish. But one thing is sure, that this COVID-19 is not going to stop very soon. We have to live with it in 20 and beyond also. Thank you so much. I hope I have taken more than 30 minutes allotted to me. I have allotted 30 minutes. There are so many things we have discussed. I think some things we'll discuss in the question and answer also. I have to confine the 30 minutes that I have completed. I have completed my part of 30 minutes.
Now, as we move ahead, we shall now listen to our next speaker, Dr. P.N. Asthana. Dr. P.N. Asthana is the Chief Coordinator Evaluation at Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Agra. He has been former Chairman of Faculty of Commerce at St. John's College, Agra. He has been Coordinator CA Foundation Studies, Bursar of St. John's College, Assistant Director Bharatiya Bhasha Kendra, Coordinator IGNOU Study Kendra at Center at St. John's College. He has been convener of Research Degree Committee. He has supervised 22 PhD scholars and has published several papers in national and international journals. He has contributed articles to bank journals and newspapers. He is on the editorial board of various journals. He has been member of Senate and Court. He has been in the panel for selection and review committee for appointment of lecturers, reader, and principal in the college affiliated to the university. He has been the resource person for number of refresher course, training program, and FDPs. He has been a visiting faculty to the University of Minot State University, USA. He has been member Regional Direct Taxes and Advisory Committee, Government of India, Ministry of Finance. And I request Professor Dr. P.N.S. Thana to take over the session. Dr. Asthana.
Dr. Asthana is there? I can't locate Dr. Asthana among the participants. Probably there has been a connecting issue. So can Dr. Ashish Noel take over the session while we connect to Dr. Asthana?
Yes, sir, sure. And I would request Dr. Sanjeev Sharma, coordinator of the webinar, to introduce our next Ashish Samarpit Noel. Sharma. I think he's also not able to be located.
We can go ahead
fine.
with the introductions later.
I'll do it. Dr. Ashish Samarpit Noel is the Associate Professor and Head of Agriculture Economics, Sam Higginbottom University of Agriculture Sciences and Technology, Prayagraj. He has 16 years of experience in the academics. Prior to Schwartz, he was associated with ICFI and Amity University. He has been to USA and UK for his teaching assignments. He has conducted various FDPs, MDPs, seminars, workshop and training programs. He has presented papers in various seminars and conferences and published many papers in national and international journals. He has been Director of Financial Planning and Management at Sam Higginbottom University of Agriculture, Sciences and Technology. He has chaired various sessions of seminars and has been associated with UP government as agriculture economic expert. He is also a member of different associations and he's also on the editorial board of various journals. Over to Dr. Ashish Noel. Please continue with the session, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vidhu. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. S.P. Singh, Principal, St. John's College, for having this collaboration with Schwartz. And I will request him to please share my screen so that I can continue with my presentation.
You can enable share screen at your end. Just enable this option.
It says hot. It is okay. How can I enable this, sir?
There would be a green button called share screen. Just push that.
I have pushed that. It says disabled participant screen sharing.
Just a moment. It says one. Okay. Now I've enabled. Okay, I've enabled multiple. Please see if it works. Otherwise,
yes, sir.
I will do it at my. It's okay.
It is okay. Yes, yes. It is working. Okay. So before continuing with my presentation, I would again thank St. John's College for this collaboration. Thanks Dr. S.P. Singh, Principal, St. John's College. Now I'll continue with my presentation. As we are talking about COVID-19, so I'll be talking about impact of COVID-19 on the growth of Indian economy. Now, growth of Indian economy, as Ghosh has talked about many aspects, I'll be talking also about those aspects with some numbers. Now, when we talk about GDP growth can be defined as an increase in inflation-adjusted market value of goods and services produced by an economy over time. It basically represents the size of economy of a country. Now, growth of economy just doesn't mean the GDP. There are other factors that determine the health of an economy, such as balance of payments, trade surplus, deficit, employment opportunities, or lack of it, which currently we are facing also. So economic growth, if we sum up, is a total of GDP, financial inclusion, poverty scenario, balance of payment, balance of trade, etc. Now, going to the impact of lockdown on Indian economy. Unemployment all-time high at 27.1% in early May. Now, if we see this particular figure, 7.1% in early May, which right now, as per the CMI data, is on 18th May stood to around 23.8%, where urban was 26.1 and rural was 22.7. Now, because of this unemployment, almost 71% of the daily wage earners lost their jobs. 23% of large entrepreneurs reported job losses. No number of salaried employees dropped by almost 21%. However, farm sector saw an increase in employment by 5%. Now, if we talk about employment figures, in March 2020, the employment figures were around about 40 crores of individuals, which fell to 28.2 crores of individuals in April 2020, currently at 26.8 crores or approximately. So that means during March and early April, almost 14 crores of individuals lost their jobs. Now, next, direct tax collection. Direct tax collection expected to decrease by 8.55 to 10.26%, further affecting the revenue of the government of India. Now, GST collection, lockdown is likely to hit state finances harder than the central government in financial year FY20 as well as FY21. Now, this is because state governments are mainly dependent on GST, whereas central government has other sources of income as well. The looming NPA risk is building up dark clouds on the MSME sector, which contributes to around 6.11% of the manufacturing GDP and 24.63% of the GDP from service activities, as well service activities as to an extent of 33.4% of India's manufacturing output also. Now, we'll be talking about banks. Now, the question is, are banks likely to see a jump in bad loans? Well, if we talk about loans, of course, they will be seeing a jump in bad loans. I will put it forward towards you with an example. If you have opted for moratorium of 3 months, deferring EMI payments of 1,30,000 in total, and the remaining loan tenure is for 4.5 years. The interest on loan is 12.5%. Then in total, you will have to pay 1,03,000 extra to what you would have paid without the moratorium. So for deferring a payment of 1,30,000, you will have to pay 1,03,000 of interest extra. So now this raises concern. So if we see, yes, definitely, because we will be seeing a jump in bad loans because of the increased burden of the MSME sector. Now, how much these bad loans are expected to rise? If we see the data combined prior to COVID-19, it was NPA was almost lesser than 10%. That was 9.3, which is expected to go up to 10.5% in the worst scenario. Now, impact of lockdown on state government GST collection. Okay, now in the words of Madan Sabnavi's head economics scare rating, nearly 80% of GST revenues come from taxes on non-essential goods and services, such as consumer electronic goods, fashion, and entertainment, while most of essential items such as food and personal care are either tax-free or under lowest tax slab. Now, because the non-essential items are not allowed, the sale of non-essential item is not allowed by the government. So basically, this will affect the tax collection adversely because essential items are in a hello. Hello. Yeah. Essential items are in a category where the tax is lesser as compared to the non-essential items. Now, according to the Reserve Bank of India, the state finances, GST was budgeted to around 43% of states' own tax revenues. The impact of lockdown on state government GST collection. Now, state excise duty, mostly taxes on alcohol, was budgeted to net 1.75 trillion, accounting for 13% of own tax revenue for FY20. Stamp duty and registration was expected to net around 1.4 trillion worth of revenues of state in FY20, according to accounting for 10% of own tax revenue. Taxes on vehicle and electricity were also a big source of revenue for state, expected to garner around 1.22 trillion. Now, according to the data by Petroleum and Planning Analysis Cell of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, diesel accounted for 39% of the entire consumption of petroleum products in India till February FY20. Now, as we all know, because the transit of heavy vehicles is has been affected by this lockdown, and as per the data, it was most of the truck, 1/3 of the trucks are in standstill condition, which will affect the sale of diesel, and it will also affect the tax collected from the sale of diesel. States will, because of this, states will partially recover a part of revenues lost on stamp duty and registration once the lockdown ends, but it would be tough to recover nearly 2 months or more than 2 months worth of revenue from fuel, electricity, and alcohol and GST in the rest of the fiscal. Now, these are a summary of the tax revenues of all states combined, which was almost 31 lakh crores, total all states tax revenue, where total revenues. Tax revenue was 22.6 lakhs crores, which out of which 14.09 lakh crores were from own taxes, and from central taxes, it was 8.51 lakh crores. And then other tax collections were as follows. Now, impact of lockdown on industries. Now we'll be seeing what is the impact of lockdown on industries. The hotels are expected to take at least 2 years to restore the occupancy levels back to the period before the lockdown began. Various businesses are in standstill condition, making no revenues and incurring fixed expenditures. Hospitality and entertainment malls and big retail outlets, textiles, FMCG, automobile, electronic equipments, oil and natural gas, and precious metal. Now, if we see the impact of lockdown on industry like automobile sale has almost halved in the month of March 2020. Seeing a fall of more than 52% in the sales. Now, if we go by the fall in sales company-wise, we see that the sale has fallen as compared to March 19 by almost from 41% to 95%. But in this fall, some companies have gained market share. There are 5 companies that have gained market share. That is Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, and MG. Now, fiscal cost of PM Modi's 20 lakh crore package. Now, if we see the actual fiscal cost of the 20 lakh crore package, this was the second column basically states the announcements made by the government, and the estimated fiscal impact is in the third column. In the earlier stimulus, they had declared a stimulus of 1,92,800 crores. Now, it is estimated that the impact on the fiscal impact on the budget would be only 85,695 to 95,800 crores. Now, this is because most of the money which the government has given out is going to come back to the government in the form of taxes and other fees. Now, RBI's measure was which RBI has taken measures which were around 8 lakh crores, but that will not impact the budget of the Indian government. Now, tranche 1, MSME plus NBFC plus power, the amount of the announcements was 5,94,000 crores. Now, the impact on the fiscal impact on the budget would be 16,500 to 55,000 crores. Tranche 2, migrant, KCC, NABARD, Mudra, etc., which 3,10,000 crores were announced for them. The impact or fiscal impact on the government budget would be 5,000 to 14,750 crores. Tranche 3, 1,50,000, the impact would be 0 to 30,000 crores. Tranche 4 and 5, 48,100 crores. The impact on the fiscal budget would be 48,100 crores. So if we see the total, the actual impact on the fiscal of Indian government would be ranging from 1,65,400 to 2,43,650 crores. So now if we see, this is almost, you can say, somewhat more than 1% of the total GDP. 2,43,000 is a bit more than 1% of the total GDP that will be impacted. So now if we go into government spending and fiscal stimulus, see the current spending, the budgeted spending before COVID-19 was nearly 29 to 30 lakh crores for Indian government, which had increased to around 31 to 32.2 lakh crores, which is expected to increase with the current announcements which the government has made. Hello. My screen has gone out. Yes, it's okay. Okay, so if we see, the budgeted was around about 29 to 30 lakh crores, and in the current scenario, or with all announcement, it will increase from 31.6 to 32.2 lakh crores. Now, if we would have declared a fiscal stimulus at par with other countries, the cost would have gone, the budget would have gone up to 47 to 48 lakh crores. And if we would have gone with the recommendations of the industry, which the industry was demanding, the budget would have gone to 35 to 36 lakhs crores. Now, the fiscal stimulus, okay. Now, loss due to pandemic may top 4% of GDP, which translates to 9 lakh crores. Now, this will be the loss in the GDP, 9 lakh crores. In India, tax to GDP ratio is 10.9%, which means 4% of GDP, that is 9 lakh crore of GDP, loss of GDP will lead to a loss of tax revenue of almost 1 lakh crore, or you can say 98.1 crore, which is almost 1 lakh crore. So that means in the current scenario, the government is going to, the central government is going to lose its revenue by 1 lakh crore. Now, if we see in the current scenario, the fiscal deficit was between 7 to 8 lakh crores. That means our expenses were exceeding by 7 to 8 lakhs crores as compared to our income in the scenario before COVID-19. Now, in the current scenario, with the fiscal stimulus coming in, this budgeted borrowing will increase from 7 to 8 lakh crores to 10 to 11 lakh crores. Now, what India could have done? Does Indian economy need massive fiscal stimulus? Actually, yes, Indian economy needs a balanced fiscal stimulus. But the problem is this stimulus, if it would be a massive stimulus, market won't be able to support it, because if this money is taken from the market, the interest rate will rise sharply. Private sectors and other borrowers will be denied credit. high interest rates and lack of credit will kill the economic activity. So only RBI printing can provide government such finances. Now, these are the pros and cons of fiscal stimulus. If we go for a very high fiscal stimulus, there would be high inflation because the money supply will increase in the economy, high current account deficit, currency depreciation will be there, reckless spending, raising NPAs. Now, reckless spending is because when there will be too much of money in the economy, people will have more money, their spending would be without thinking they will be spending, and those institutions who are taking loan on lesser interest rates and they will be spending just like that, so that will lead to NPAs. Okay, no fiscal stimulus, there will be deflation because when there will be no cash flow in the economy, the demand will be killed and which will lead to deflation, not inflation. Now, deflation is a real risk with demand crashing. Current account, not a concern, as there would be barely any trade if there would be no fiscal stimulus. Now, does the government spending affect economic growth? Government spending, if we see government studies have suggested that undesirable long-run effect from government spending, it crowds out private sector spending and uses money in unproductive ways. Now, this is one of the side effects of raised government spending, that private sector spending and use of money in unproductive happens. Now, in response to the financial crisis and its impact on the Indian economy, many governments have increased government spending markedly in order to stimulate economic growth. Now, what experts say? Now, GDP will contract in the first quarter. This is the Chief Economic Advisor, K.V. Subramanian, said that India's GDP will contract in the first quarter, but is likely to grow at 2% for the full financial year. But he did not mention that how much will the GDP fall in the first quarter. Now, big stimulus will cost big. There is no free lunch. That is what he says. He also emphasized that monetization will impact macro fundamentals. Now, the macro fundamentals like employment, inflation, all these will be impacted by monetization. So that is not a very good idea, though in case of emergencies, government does so. Now, economic and marketing challenges to maintain demand and supply balance in Indian economy. Now, these are the challenges which we are going to face. Now, while doing this particular study, the society has been divided into categories on the basis of two things. One is class-wise, categorization on the basis of class-wise, and second is categorization on the basis of income. Now, firstly, we'll be seeing the categorization on the based on class-wise. Now, the first, or you can say the lowest class of the society is the daily wage earners. Now, these daily wage earners, 70% of them have migrated to their native places, though it is expected that these migrated workers will return by 6 months as the lockdown ends. Now, this particular segment, if we see, this particular segment of the society contributed largely to essential item consumption, particularly eatables to a greater extent. So what will happen when the cash in this, or you can cash flow in this particular segment of the society will go down, they will reduce their consumption for essential items, particularly eatables. So the demand for eatables will go down. Now, the second segment of the society class-wise is service class individuals working in private sector are facing pay cuts and job losses, or are expecting it in near future. Now, with this, their disposable income also will be reduced. So reduction in the disposable income of this particular segment may not necessarily affect essential item consumption, but will adversely affect non-essential item consumption. The third category is service class individuals working in central and state government are also facing minor cuts or reduction in their disposable income due to cuts announced by the government in their allowances. Now, if we analyze this particular segment's income, the fall in the percentage of disposable income is too less as compared to other segments of the society to impact their consumption demand. Instead, this is my assumption that the consumption in this particular segment may rise as falling demand may lead to fall in purchasing power. Falling demand may lead to deflation, increasing the purchasing power of this particular segment. So this particular segment will contribute to the consumption demand more. Now, next class is micro, small and medium enterprises with high leverage are expected to face acute financial distress due to looming NPA risk. Now, as a result of increasing debt burden because of compounding interest during the moratorium period, we have seen the calculations that how moratorium period interest will build up on the debts of the micro MSME sector. And to add to this, the government has, instead of declaring a package for them, it has given them a credit guarantee loan. They can avail loans on where the government of India will be the guarantor, will act as a guarantor, and the risk will not be borne by the banks. Now, in this, what will happen? MSME sector can get loans easily. Banks will give it the loans easily because these are guaranteed loans, and the risk of this NPA increasing is less. But in a time when the demand is falling, when the income of individual or the households are falling, will the MSME sector take such loans is a big question. Now, with zero or nominal revenues and fixed operating expenses, units will be forced to close down permanently. Studies have suggested closure of up to 40% of businesses in worst scenario. Okay, next is this was a study done by Boston Consulting Group, Retailer Association of India, BCG. Okay, now as per their study, they have divided the society in different segments based on their income. Now they have the first category is the strugglers, whose income is less than 1.5 lakhs. Now, strugglers are 23.4% of the total households, and they contribute to 10% of consumption demand in 2018. Now, this is the data of 2018, which we can use to estimate whether what will happen in the present scenario. So, strugglers, they contributed to 10% of the consumption demand, though they were 23.4% of the total household. Okay, next billion is a category whose income is from 1.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs annually. This was the biggest group. This constitutes about 45.1% of the total household, and it contributes maximum, that is 34% of total consumption in 2018. Total consumption. So if we see both the segments, both the segments combinedly contribute 44% of total consumption. Now, this segment of the society largely contributes to essential item consumption, particularly eatables to a greater extent. So, 44% of the consumption will be impacted because this particular segment of the society is facing heavy pay cuts and income losses. Now, next, aspiring and affluent households, which include both service class and business class that earn between 5 lakh and 20 lakh per annum, constitutes 28% of total households and jointly contributes 43%, that is 23% plus 20% of total consumption demand. Now, aspiring and affluent households contributes to non-essential item consumption more as compared to essential item. So this segment is facing pay cuts and layoffs, thereby reducing disposable income of this particular segment. Since the segment jointly holds 43% of consumption, it will impact non-essential item, including luxury item and semi-luxury item consumption demand in a considerable amount. Now, next is the elite class. Elite class and above category of individual with annual income of more than 20 lakhs may be least impacted on consumption front. They may impact the consumption demand, but since the segment share of consumption in domestic consumer market is very less, 13%, so it will barely impact the essential item consumption and may slightly impact non-essential item or semi-luxury, slightly impact non-essential item, semi-luxury, but may considerably impact luxury item consumption. Now, supply in the economy. In an economy already reeling under a demand depression, rising employment and lowering of industrial output and profits, all of this happening together for several quarters now, a supply side constraint would deliver a big blow, jeopardizing growth prospects and social and economic well-being of a large number of people. Now, leverage small and medium scale businesses are expected to face acute financial distress due to increasing debt burden. This will influence the supply in the economy negatively, raising the risk of inflation. This inflation is even worse as in this, the supply falls below the reduced demand as compared to the pre-lockdown period. Now, manpower will be a constraint, with MSME indicating that 30 to 70% of their pre-COVID workforce might have migrated back to their hometown due to uncertainties and losses of income due to lockdown. Though 70% of this migrated workforce is expected to return back within 6 months. It will be a challenge to convince staff to return or acquire new staff, and the staff changeover is expected to impact negatively on productivity, quality, and defect rates, adding further to supply concerns. Now, machinery and stock of raw material, work in progress, and final product will have degraded due to lockdown. The MSME will need to undertake outstanding maintenance and service and clean out wasted stocks before they can resume operations at a significant cost, and with likely write-offs to stocks currently trapped on site, further delaying the supply restart. Now, possible measures to cope up. Now, these are possible measures which the government also is thinking of. Maybe in near future, these things are implemented. Now, raising the income tax rates to 40% for those who earn over 1 crore a year. Reintroduce of wealth tax, a 3-year tax holiday for all corporates and businesses in healthcare sector, tax imposed on online companies such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Zoom, among others, under the equalization levy of Google tax can be increased from 6%, presently it is 6%, to 7% for their ad services, and from 2% to 3% for their e-commerce work. Now, affecting a one-time COVID-19 cess of 4% on taxable income of over 10 lakhs. The extra revenue generated through this could be between 15,000 to 18,000 crores. New tax saving scheme, for example, a COVID-19 saving certificate. Now, the government should identify 5 to 10 crucial projects entitling significant expenditure, which are likely to have a decisive impact on reviving the economy. The government should commit itself to the fact that the additional revenue raised through taxing the wealthy will only be utilized for these 5-10 projects or schemes. Now, these are some opportunities which are there. India is seeking to lure US businesses, including medical devices giant Abbott Laboratories, to relocate from China as President Donald Trump's administration steps up efforts to blame Beijing for its role in the coronavirus pandemic. Now, sources say in April, India reached out to more than 1,000 companies in US and through overseas mission to offer incentives for manufacturers seeking to move out of China. Now, so this can be an opportunity for India. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish, for that informative and enriching session. And we have got a lot of questions, which I can see, which we'll be asking at the end of the session. I would now request Dr. P.N. Asthana for his session. Dr. Asthana.
Yeah, I'm available. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you're quite audible.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Should I start?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, honorable patrons, Professor Ashok Mittal, the Vice Chancellor of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Agra, Professor S.P. Singh, Principal St. John's College, Dr. Lawrence, other organizers of the webinar, and the august audience, Professor Ghosh and Ashish Noel. Well, I should be very, very much grateful to the learned organizers of this webinar for affording me an opportunity to share some of my views. Professor Ghosh and Ashish Noel has simplified my job by providing a lot of information and statistics on Indian economy and its impact. So I shall not be loading the audience with my data and statistics. I would like to focus my presentation on upcoming marketing challenges, choices, and strategies for India in the post-COVID era or post-COVID lockdown. My dear friends, we all are very, very much aware of the menace created by COVID-19, not only in India, in many, many other countries, including developed countries. The patients are still coming to the hospitals. The number of COVID patients have gone up to 1 lakh. Of course, a good number have recovered and has been discharged by the hospitals. Many have lost their lives. It's so sorry. The entire population is exposed to coronavirus. Medical experts say that the peak is yet to come. And the lockdown 4.0 is now continuing. And it's not, this coronavirus is not going to vanish soon. In fact, we have to learn to live with coronavirus. And the impact may be at least for the 2 years to come. We have to maintain healthcare and sanitization protocol when we are going to work out again. The people, still the people in the red zone area are locked in their houses. I'm locked down in my house for last more than 50 days, which is something very, very unexpected of me. I have never been at my home for such a long time. The population in the red zone area comes to around 40%, and they contribute nearly 50% of GDP. They nearly contribute 70% to the deposits in the banks, and they take loan worth 80% of the borrowings from the bank. And this pandemic has resulted into closure of manufacturing and other economic activities, causing immense damage to our economy and public at large. Of course, now with lockdown 4, some of the economic activities have been resumed, are being resumed slowly with lot of caution and precaution. The loss of unemployment to millions of the people, the jobless migratory population, the workers are going back to native place with tremendous difficulty. They may return after 3 months, 6 months, only the God knows. The people at large is locked down and facing variety of problems. The business fraternity is also suffering tremendously, especially the tourism sector and hospitality industry is the worst hit, and they will remain hit for at least another 1 year. The state exchequer is also facing a lot of miseries. I'm not giving any data as this has already been given by two of the predecessors. The demand has come down considerably. This has two aspects. I'm saving some money. I'm spending money only on the very, very essential items. I cannot spend money on other items because I cannot move out from my home. I'm locked in the home. Even if I wish to go to a hotel or restaurant for having some dinner, I cannot. So right now we are saving money and we are hoping for good time when we can spend money the way we want. Social distancing is going to be established rule for time to come. My dear friends, the challenge is quite big. In this hour of crisis, pessimism will not work. We need to believe that every nightmare is succeeded by a pleasant sunshine. Every destruction lays foundation for reconstruction, and every dead point is a good point for U-turn. I am very much optimistic. We shall overcome this situation in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And these 2, 3, 4, 5 months are not very, very big enough in the life of a nation, in life of a person. If out of my 68 years of life, if I had to stay for 3 months in the home and sacrifice some part of my earning, well, it will affect me, but it will not kill me. This is what I believe. Now we need to focus on 3 things: awareness of the situation, acceptance of the reality. The reality is, yes, we are locked down. The economic activities has been suspended for no fault of any of us. You can say it's an act of God. We all are suffering and we have to bear it. And then we have to start with action for first for survival, then for revival, and then third for growth. So survival is first thing, how we can survive in this pandemic. That is first priority. Second, maybe how to revive the economy. And then thirdly, we can think about growth in the economy. In this hour of crisis, our Prime Minister has advocated for self-reliant economy, self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. And he has stressed that now you be vocal for the local and then from local to global. This is the priority very much defined. First, we have to care for our own people, and then we can think about the whole world, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And there are 5 pillars of the Atmanirbhar Bharat economy, infrastructure, systems, technology, and lastly and most important is our vibrant demography. We are proud of our population. We are very much confident about the competence and skills of our own people. We have done miracle in the past and we shall be doing it still in the future. The central government has announced a relief package worth 20.97 lakh crores. And this is to promote liquidity in the hands of the agriculturist, MSMEs, food processing industry, mining sector, fisheries, animal husbandry, and common poor. The announcements made by Government of India would be giving new opportunities for survival, revival, and ultimately growth of the economy. I'm quite optimistic. Now, the big responsibilities or the new responsibility rest with the Indian entrepreneurs. In my view, there are three types of entrepreneurs. One, those who wonder what has happened. Two, those who watch, make it happen. And third, those who make it happen. One, who wonder what has happened. Two, those who watch, make it happen. Number three, those who make it happen. And now there is urgent need to encourage the entrepreneurs who can make it happen. In my view, there is no dearth of entrepreneurs in India who can make it happen. They need to stand up and grab the opportunities generated by this crisis or during this crisis. And some of the new opportunities may be, number one, to restart your business as quickly as the conditions permit. Two, strengthen the supply chain. Number three, explore the possibility to get engaged in infrastructure developmental activities. Infrastructure developmental activities, both at the initiative of the government and both at private initiatives. And this will facilitate our local business enterprises. And number two, this will encourage foreign companies to come to India. And the marketing intelligence says that many MNCs are planning to relocate their business to India. This might be a new opportunity. We provide them a right infrastructure, a right environment, the proper laws and regulation to help them. Then the opportunities in the field of horticulture, fisheries, mining, animal husbandry, agro-based industries, electricals and electronics, and healthcare and defense. Now, the focus of the government is also on these sectors, and these sectors can give us new opportunities. Then the businesses which can promote import substitution. The items which we were importing till now, we can produce in our own country, and we reduce our dependence on the imports. This will save money on the national exchequer, and this will reduce our burden on the foreign exchange. if we can send our satellites, why can't we produce a good mobile in the country? Why can't we produce a good camera in the country? Why can we produce many other items of daily need? Why we need to import it from different countries? Why are we depending on imports from China? Why can't we produce in our own country? And the businesses which can encourage export, they need to be focused. With existing conditions we are living in today, we urge our entrepreneurs, business houses to focus on, number one, what are we doing today? What we are doing today? How are we doing it today? What else can be done or should be done? And then how can we help ourselves and the country? This means we need to have an action-oriented plan. Now I will talk about some strategic options for business and marketing. Economics is mother and marketing is a child of economics. If I'm audible, if I'm audible,
Yes, sir, you are.
okay, thank you. The marketing function starts much before production and goes beyond sale. And we need to focus on certain things. Number one is enterprise resource planning. Popularly we call ERP. We need to examine our resources in terms of number one, human resource, the present human resource, its skill and competence. Presently, the business houses are allowed to operate with only 50% of their workforce. So the first question is, who are to be hired right now and who are to be put on hold for some time to come? Then second focus is inventory levels. Inventory of raw material, semi-finished goods, and finished goods. They are to be re-examined whether they are still usable or they are to be disposed of. We need to maintain them at the minimum level with perpetual inventory control system in view of depressed demand and in view of the liquidity crunch. Thirdly, we need to redesign or restructure our floor utilization. Now the workers are required to maintain social distancing, and therefore we shall not be able to accommodate as many people as we were doing in the past. We have to maintain distance, and so plant outlay or plant layout has to be redesigned so that we can maintain the social distance. And then a very important area is healthcare management at factory level. Sanitization, provision of sanitizers, masks, hand gloves, and other safety measures are essential norms. And now every factory, every business house have to ensure about the health of the workers. We may be requiring equipment to check their temperature, and we may be required to report if there is any sick patient. They may be secluded from rest of the people. Now, the second very important area is business process re-engineering. We call it EPR, BPR. There is some humming. Okay. Well, we need to re-examine our business process, the way we produce the goods, the way we market the goods. Number one, quality of production inputs need to be checked, and we have to ensure the production process has to be revisited for ensuring cut in the production cost and enhancement in the quality of the output. Thirdly, technological innovations and upgradation. This is going to be very, very important component. How we can improve our techniques of production, how we can go for new kind of product, new kind of process, and new kind of output. And then health and hygiene checkup of the workforce. And then next is reorganizing working hours. Since you are supposed to work with only 50% of the staff at one time, if you need to reach the same level of output which you are doing before the COVID, you have to work in 2 shifts. It's a big challenge. Even for the colleges, it's a big challenge. You may have to convert your classrooms into shifts. Now, the emphasis on education sector is 1/3 classroom teaching, 1/3 online teaching, and 1/3 experiential teaching. This is the new mode in education sector. And then meetings with the staff on cloud or video conferencing or Google Meet. And then the third component, augmenting marketing skills and efforts. Now, we need to focus on, beside focusing on production, we need to focus on marketing aspect. We need to focus on the supply chain. We have to resume the supply chain as quickly as possible. Marketing is a vital function which has capacity to convert organization into cash cow. I'm just referring to certain points, not elaborating it much. Number one, marketing intelligence management. And this marketing intelligence management shall be resting on elaborate product research, how my product is behaving in the market, how far it is acceptable, and how far it is meeting out the expectation of the customers. Consumer research. During COVID, even post-COVID, the consumer behavior has undergone a lot of change. And this change is going to continue. The mindset that I can survive with my essentials and I can dispense with the non-essentials will continue for some more time. There is a lot of expenditure on non-essential items only, but they are equally important. They are equally important for growth of the economy. So consumer research and then market and marketing communication research. These three researches should be focused: elaborate product research, consumer research, and marketing communication research. And this might help in reaching out the correct estimation of the present demand and the future demand. Number two, product modification, product innovation, product extension strategy has to be followed to enhance customer delight and customer expectation. We need to innovate our product. We need to extend our product. We need to modify our product. We may be required to switch from one business to another business. That all is possible and that all is warranted. We have to explore new uses of the products we are going to market. How my product can be applied to different sectors. We never knew the requirement of sanitizers, masks, etc., etc. 2 months back. Now we know, yes, we may be requiring mask. We require hand gloves. We require sanitizers. And India has got a potential to respond. We were not manufacturing PPE kit. And we were manufacturing very little N95 mask. And today more than 2 lakh PPE kit and 2 lakh masks are being manufactured every day. That is the potential of our people. Yes, we can do it, provided we have the right environment. Then we need to explore new market. We may need to focus again on rural India. A lot of potential is there. A large chunk of population reside in the villages. And a very large chunk of the labor has moved to village. So the demand which was prevalent in the urban sector has now moved to rural sector. And then we need to reach the global market, as many economies are suffering. Economies in the developed countries are suffering. Their production process is slow or stopped. This will provide you an opportunity to go and supply. We are supplying medicine to US and many, many other countries. And then we need to improve our marketing communication. And this will help us. Then we need to highlight and showcase our product at much more bigger level, locally and then globally. And then we have to follow sanitization and hygiene norms in the process of manufacturing, packaging, and delivery. Now we have to sanitize the product, the way they are being packed and the way they are being delivered. Then we need to strengthen our brand and brand positioning. our Prime Minister could establish a brand India in the world. Now, India is a brand. Can we do something to establish our brand globally? I know it for certain. We cannot establish a brand overnight. It needs a lot of labor, lot of credentials, lot of credibility to do it. We have to create our own credibility. Yes, we are a genuine supplier. We are a genuine manufacturer. We shall be providing a genuine product to you at a reasonable price, and the quality would be acceptable to you. Then only we can develop our brand. And then we have to work on the technology-driven processes. Necessity is the mother of invention. This COVID is helping us to conduct our webinar on Zoom. Otherwise, I would be sitting in the hall of St. John's College to deliver my talk. So we need to have technology-driven processes to improve the marketing. Now, e-business, e-commerce is not only a fashion of the day, it has become a passion and urgency of the day. As we might not reach the vendors so frequently, so smoothly, so regularly, so e-commerce is opening a lot of vista for us. Then we need to focus on revenue maximization. Revenue maximization, not profit maximization. Maximize the revenue, maximize the turnover. Simply by, number one, product differentiation, and number two, price differentiation. And then lastly, and very important, is for any marketer, those who are involved in the marketing, they have to listen to the voice of the customer, and voice of the channel partners, those who are helping you. Marketing is all about delivering value to the customers and hence focus on customer delight. Visualize the expectations of your local and global customers and modify your marketing strategy. Okay, we have received a lot of setback. The economy is in the state of shambles, but this is no fault of mine or yours. The only thing is we have to wait and watch. And the moment we get an opportunity to stand up, we have to rush. We have to restart with more vigor, with more strength. May God give us the strength to restart for survival, revival, and growth. And I'll close my presentation with a prayer. Sarve bhavantu shukhna. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pasantu. Ma kashadu bhugbhag bhavet. Let all be happy. Let all be free of diseases. Let nobody should suffer. May God help us. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm done. You start with the question and answer session.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this very informative, enriching, and a complete session. Thank you so much, sir. And now,
Thank you.
as the lectures were going on, I was able to see many questions on the board. So, So there's a question from the side of the participant that can this labor law reform to boost the Indian economy, the labor laws?
This question goes to Ashish or
To you, sir. I'm asking you only.
to me?
I'm taking
Okay,
your question
okay,
first.
okay. Okay, it's all right. The labor law reforms will focus on hire and fire policy. Different legislations are still in the parliamentary committees, and they have to be processed by the government. And as and when they are passed, we've been able to know what are there in the labor law legislation reforms.
Okay, sir. And the second question is, what should be the first step we should take as a global community so that we can better be prepared for the next pandemic? For the
Well,
next pandemic, what should be the first step?
okay, personal hygiene, number one. Social distancing is going to be a norm for time to come, and improving our health infrastructure, that will help. Because the corona is not going to end. We have to learn to live with corona or some other kind of viruses. We have survived many kind of viruses in the past. Ebola we have survived, SARS we have survived, flu we have survived, swine flu we have survived. We shall survive corona also.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, some questions to Professor Ghosh. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm here. I'm
Yes,
here.
sir. Yes, sir. Sir, there's a question that why is it named as Hindu growth rate?
No, it is very old story. Hindu here is nothing to do with a religion. It was coined in 1981 by Professor Raj Krishna when he was a member of the then Planning Commission. After analyzing the first 3 decades after the independence, that is 1950s, 60s, and 70s, he termed that GDP growth rate of India has stuck into slow growth rate, and which is inbuilt. I'm quoting the words, inbuilt unchangeability of the Indian economy as the way of Hindustan, that is Hindu way of life. That he never meant religion. That is the Hindustan, the inbuilt unchangeability of the Indian economy as the Hindu way of life, and that was the growth rate was stuck to 3.5% per annum. If you analyze that entire 3 decades, in 1950 to 1960, the average annual growth rate was 3.9%. 1960 to 70, it was 3.71%, and 70 to 80, it was 3.1%. If you take the average of these 3 decades, it is 3.5% per annum. That was the Hindu growth rate. That was actually a pessimistic sound towards Indian economy. But after reforms, we doubled the growth rate to 7%. That is twice of 3.5. That is known as optimism. That is new Hindu growth rate. But India is still looking forward for triple or super Hindu growth rate, that is double-digit growth rate, to take India on a path of 5 trillion economy. I am repeating again that Professor Raj Krishna never meant Hindu growth rate and Hindu religion, but rather Hindustan, which is a mixture of all religions in Hindustan or Bharatvarsh.
Okay, sir.
And there are so many things.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sorry, please continue.
No. If the person is satisfied, then I have confined to analysis only to Hindu growth rate. There are so many factors behind Hindu growth rate also. Low per capita income, low saving, high capital output, ICOR, low demand, low market size, inward-looking economy. There are so many factors were involved. That is inbuilt unchangeability of Hindu way of life that Professor Raj Krishna meant by the Hindu growth rate in a lecture that he delivered in Washington in December 1981 in US annual economic associations meeting. That is a Hindu growth rate. It was
Okay, sir.
pessimism. Yeah.
Sir, how much Atmanirbhar campaign from PM is related to country like India in this situation when manpower is under migration?
Naturally, as I stated in my lecture also, that the entire socio-economic fabric is going to change in a big way. It is not the migration, that is reverse migration, but we have to create the jobs at their own places. That is why in Manrega, there is an increase, a jump of 40,000 crore, so that the people can get the employment and income at their own native places. Number two, what I meant to say, in future, Atmanirbhar Bharat also means, which I focus again, to produce for our own domestic consumption. And now export is not on the radar of the government. Now, if you look at the 4.0 lockdown with Industrial Revolution 4.0, there are two similarities. The percentage of formally skilled workforce in India is only 4.7%, and which is 96% in South Korea, 80% in Japan, 75% Germany, 68% in UK, 52% in US, and even 24% in China, but we are merely 4.7%. Then in Atmanirbhar Bharat, our focus will be to rapidly promote skilled workforce. And the Industrial Revolution 4.0 has so many dimensions. Now we are moving from the traditional industries to a smart product, smart building, smart logistic, smart mobility, smart grids. It is Internet of data, it is Internet of things, it is Internet of services, it is Internet of people. That is the social wave and business wave is going to make Atmanirbhar Bharat. And when I mentioned you earlier, it is now the question of 3 B's: bread, bomb, and breath. And for bomb, now we have 74% FDI permission in defense sector. That is very important for Atmanirbhar Bharat. We have the capability, we have the willpower, and we will succeed in fulfilling the dream of Atmanirbhar Bharat in a big way. I'm very optimistic in that way, and I'm very hopeful in the potential of Indian economy. I hope.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And yes, sir. I hope it is clear to the person who has asked this. And sir, now one more question.
To me?
What should be done to Yes, sir.
Okay.
What should be done to restart all the sectors gradually?
Naturally, we have already started diluting the lockdown in some zones. I started my deliberation that we never come across these type of traffic light signals of the zones also, red zone, green zone, or orange zone, like traffic light. Now, there are some areas in red zone which are under. The zones are also confined to only areas, very small areas now. I wish that there are more and more green zones in near future. And government is also, day before yesterday, has allowed, Ministry of Home has allowed so many activities gradually. But I can see that a large gathering will not be allowed in near future. Therefore, we have to change all. Where I told you that smart activities means Internet of data, things, services, people in the Industrial Revolution 4.0. That means we have to open, but not by crowding of people. That is the way of a small opening of the economy. That's a thing.
Okay, sir. So last question, actually. Yes, sir.
And Professor Asthana has already discussed that.
Yes,
the business structure is going to change completely. That is how we'll gradually opening it.
Actually, sir, there are many questions. I'm just picking up randomly some questions. Otherwise, there are a lot of questions. And the last question, just which I could see just now, how this pandemic gonna hit the student? Is there any serious issue we have to worry about? A student is asking.
Naturally, students are also worried and teachers are also worried. I believe that that the old teacher-taught relationship, face-to-face relationship, was actually very encouraging, very useful. Because what I am today, it is because of my teachers, and who have motivated me a lot with a personal example, personal touch, personal encouragement. But this COVID-19 is going to affect for me at least, I conceive, it is very going to affect very adversely to this all teacher-taught relationship, because online teaching and online learning is not actually the substitute of classroom teaching and classroom building. It can never be.
Yeah.
And it is also creating psychological effects, adverse psychological effects also on the students. Because in classroom, when you see all the students, you find out who is a weaker student, needs more support. Then you pick them out of the crowd. But this is going to affect in a big way. But as the MHRD also said, that from next session onwards, at least 25% of course will be completed online. And I think that in future, the online teaching is going to increase, and emotional bondage of teacher and taught is going to reduce. When I'm speaking on the webinar, I'm not able to see who are participating, what are the face reactions, which I used to see in my crowded classes. And their expression, face expression also encouraged me to make myself better as a better teacher. But this electronic media or online will affect the teachers also and the students also. This is my personal, maybe it may sound very old fashioned to many young generation, but to my generation, it is there. Like when I say, to quote a Nazm of Gulzar Sahab, when you click the mouse of the computer, you actually miss the zaiqa of work which you get when you move the pages with your thumb and your tongue. That zaiqa will you miss in this online teaching. Because by heart I'm very emotional, and a poet by heart, that I quote like this. And when it's all going through all this workforce coming back from their workplaces to their native homes, and I said that it has created permanent scar on their body, mind, and soul. We have never seen this type of U-turn or reverse back. Then I quote a share, and in the share, I hope the listeners will just appreciate for these migrant laborers who are somehow trying to go back to their own native places. On the road, हर शख्स देखता है बड़े गौर से मुझे. What they say, हर शख्स देखता है बड़े गौर से मुझे, पैदल हूं मैं सड़क पे या इश्तिहार हूं. That is the plight of the migrants. पैदल हूं मैं सड़क पे या इश्तिहार हूं. हर शख्स देखता है बड़े गौर से मुझे. That is the effect of COVID-19 on these migrant laborers and on the economy.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And two more questions to Dr. Ashish Noel. I'm just picking up some random questions. I'm not able to take all the questions. Sorry, participants, because we are running short of time. It's already 4:15. Dr. Ashish Noel? Yes. Dr. Ashish Noel, yes. Are you? Yes. There's a question. प्रवासी मजदूर की समस्या को लेके राज्य सरकार विशेषकर यूपी और बिहार के पास क्या त्वरित समाधान हो सकता है?
प्रवासी मजदूर जो समाधान मुझे दिखता है कि ये जो यूपी और बिहार जैसे स्टेट्स हैं, उनके लिए ये एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है. ये अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि वो जो है वो टैक्स हेवन्स क्रिएट करें, ऐसी जगह क्रिएट करें जहां पर अगर इंडस्ट्रीज, बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज आके इंडस्ट्रीज लगाती हैं तो उनको कुछ साल के लिए टैक्स हॉलिडे मिलेगा, लाइक 3 years और 4 years टैक्स हॉलिडे. तो उससे क्या होगा कि जो बड़ी कंपनीज है, दे विल मूव टू बिहार एंड यूपी, एंड दिस माइग्रेटिंग लेबर जो कि वापस नहीं जाना चाह रहे हैं, उनको इजी और चीप लेबर भी मिल जाएगी, and laborers को income मिल जाएगी. So Bihar and UP should be working on a plan wherein they create a tax holiday and a tax heaven in their particular state.
Thank you, Ashish, sir. And one more question, two more questions to go. In this situation, what will be the sources of government earning? Because such situation require government expenditure also. How should the government plan to cover the expenditure along with planning for the investment in various sectors?
See, yes, of course, this is a big challenge. When the income of the households in Indian economy is going down, that simply means the revenue which government of India generates from these households in the form of taxes and other fees will go down, and we have seen that it will take a hit in my presentation. So in this time, the only way to increase government spending is to borrow money. Now, borrowing money is from RBI. RBI can monetize to a certain extent, not heavy borrowings. To a certain extent, they can borrow, and then this borrowed money should be channelized into the economy in such a way that a demand and supply balance is maintained. If the cash flow increases, the demand will increase, and if the companies are not making goods, what will happen? There will be high inflation. And if the companies will get money and the supply will be increased, and there is no money, cash flow in the economy, or households के पास पैसा नहीं है consumption करने के लिए, तो what will happen? There will be deflation in the economy because supply will be more, and if because of cash flow among the household is consuming household is less, so there will be deflation. So both situations are dangerous for economy. So the government should be inducing money into the economy in such a way that the supply as well as the demand on the economy they grow in a balanced way.
Okay, thank you. And last question, what could be the best solution for industries to cope up with present crisis?
Now that is the biggest question which I see as an economist. I see the biggest question is because of these migrating laborers. Now, in this particular situation, how will these companies cope up? Because they don't have laborers to work, and because laborers have migrated, the cost of labor will increase for a time being because there will be scarcity of laborers. So, in that particular case, what will the companies will do? So for this also, I think the government support is necessary, because the companies won't be able to do anything. The government support is very necessary. The companies to revive the demand. The companies, what they can do is they can pull down their prices of the finished product which they sell in the market, and for time being, so that people start consuming more at a lower price. So that can be a temporary from the company's point of view, but it is very important that the government supports these companies.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ashish. I think participants are still asking questions, and there are flood of questions, but because we are running short of time, as I said, I would like to conclude the session for today. And I extend a hearty vote of thanks to all the honorable participants who blessed us with their presence. I must mention a deep sense of appreciation to Professor P.K. Ghosh, Dr. P.N. Asthana, and Dr. Ashish S. Noel, who took out time from a busy schedule and gave a knowledgeable talk. I would extend a special thanks to our principal, Professor S.P. Singh, who is always there for us and who encouraged us in upholding such a great webinar. I request Professor S.P. Singh to wind up today's session of today's seminar. Principal, sir. Principal, sir. I request Principal, sir, to close today's session.
I'll just take this opportunity to sum up the whole thing within a minute. Professor Ghosh, in a very scholarly deliberation, posited the whole dilemma of life over livelihood. He talked about need more sectors. He referred to Industrial Revolution 4.0 and the implications that would arise out of it. He also gave very insightful responses and talked about numerous behavioral issues which are of great interest. Professor Asthana, in a very engaging conversation, talked about the need of understanding consumer behavior, reinventing marketing communication as per the requirement. He talked about the necessity for product modification, innovation, enrichment, and the need for greater flexibility in the business processes. Dr. Ashish Samarpit Noel also, in a very engaging manner, presented the different scenarios and how government can try to bring back economy on a recovery. So some very interesting insights were gleaned, and we almost had an attendance of over 500 people, both on our platform and online streaming. So I really thank all the learned resource persons and the viewers on behalf of the St. John's College. And with that, we come to the conclusion of our day one, and we look forward to see you all again at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Again, like today, we would request you to log in at least 10 minutes early so that we are here in time to launch the session at sharp 2. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.